How are y'all doing? I'm a little out of breath right now. Uh, can I just say this? We're in the middle of building a house right now, and so would how many of you have ever built a house before? Okay, so those of you who have done that, I hope that y'all understand and can vouch for me. Um, yeah, so we're in the midst of building a house, and this morning I was talking to loan officers and the builder about paints and colors and all different kind of stuff. And then I looked down at my email. I was like, "Oh my goodness, I'm supposed to be here in 15 minutes." And I'm not dressed exactly like I wanted to be dressed, but this kind of goes with what I was going to talk about anyway. Um, I wanted to start off by saying I'm not a preacher. I'm not a preacher. Uh, I'm not a pulpit preacher. I'm a youth minister, but I'm not a professional youth minister as well. And I think that's important for you to understand that. So I could come up here and lie to you and say, I'll dress like this on purpose. I've even got a little bit of paint on my jeans, to show you that I'm a worker, But no, really, it goes down to I was not ready, and I just threw this on real quick. Um, I actually have a Heritage shirt on, just like yours under this. But um, I had my Heritage T-shirt on. I thought that might fly well. I'll put a nice shirt on. No, I'm not a preacher. I'm not a professional preacher. I'm not a professional youth minister. I do those things. I guess by profession I am a missionary, but still at the same time I don't feel like I'm a professional missionary. I do this because I'm a child of God. I do this because I am a Christian. I do this because the world needs to know. The world needs to know that Jesus Christ died for them as well as for me. And so that's why I do what I do. Jeremy asked me to talk about working locally and thinking globally. And I think it's important for us to understand the concepts that I have already talked about, not being professional preachers. Now that's y'all might be thinking, well, this school is training us to be professional preachers, but I think that we need to change our mindset just a little bit about that. And let me explain. What we do overseas is we go into countries and we gather people together that want to study God's Word, and we teach them the Bible. Then they turn around and they go home, and they will teach their families, their neighbors, the people that are around them, and we don't support them. We don't give them money because we don't do preacher training schools, because in all honesty we're not trying to create preachers. Does that make sense? I mean, we are trying to create preachers, but we're not trying to create professional preachers. What are we trying to create? We're trying to teach people to be children of God. And so they go home and they'll start a congregation at their own hometown. And if they want to have a preacher there, and if they want to have somebody to stand up there with the suit and tie on, then that will happen. But I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is we're trying to create just Christians. Just teach people to be Christians and be evangelists and tell people about Jesus Christ. And I think that's important for us to understand that that's what we are. There are roles that we do fill. Congregations have certain expectations, right? They have expectations of a preacher, but at the same time, we need to understand you're just a child of God. We're all just children of God, and we're all just trying to help. And so we go overseas and we do that, and we don't say anything about the job of a preacher. I guess we just teach them the Bible, and then they turn around, and if you're excited about God, you're just going to tell people, right? And so it's just weird to me. It's strange to me that it's so effective. It's so effective over there, and that model of what we do is based off of what happened in the first century church. And it's strange to me that we don't seem to do that so much here. You know, the church is a business, man. It is a business, and I feel like if we're going to act locally and think globally, then we need to take some of that business part out of it. And I hope y'all understand what I'm saying. I'll give you just a little example of my experience working as a youth minister at our little country congregation at Maud, Alabama. Anybody ever been to Maud, Alabama? A little bitty church. We range from 90 people and then sometimes down to 60 people, and real good. I mean, I love it. I love Maud. It's my home, and a lot of good people there. And so we can't support a full-time preacher. We have Barron there. He is our full-time preacher, but it's a full-time work, part-time pay. Y'all know how that goes. And that's how a lot of these smaller churches do. It's a part-time pay, because we can't afford to have the big professional preacher there. And so we have to do things a little bit differently. And to be quite honest, I like the way that it's done. I like the way that it's done. We don't have a full-time preacher. We don't have a full-time youth minister. I'm the full-time youth minister, but I don't get full-time pay. I don't get paid a whole lot to do it. And there was a big discussion there about getting a van. I got to understand that Maud's budget is very, very tight. Big discussion about getting a church van. And I do mission work, so I miss most of these business meetings because they're usually on Sunday afternoons and I'm reporting somewhere. I come back to this one Sunday night, I'm actually there, so I come to the business meeting and I find out that they've been discussing getting a van for the youth group. And they have been doing all this discussion and talking and checking on prices and everything. And this had been going on for weeks. And they had finally decided on paying for this $22,000 van, and I can't remember. It was just small enough that you didn't have to have a CDL, so it was a pretty good sized van. But they're going to spend $22,000 on it, and then I was thinking, like, man, you're going to have this payment, then you're going to have insurance that you're going to have to pay on, then you're going to have to keep it up, and then you're going to have to pay for gasoline. Who's going to pay for the gas? Am I going to have to pay gas when I drive the kids somewhere in this thing? And so all these just expenses, all these bills and headaches that come along with this van is what I'm thinking about. And so they're just about to give the go-ahead, let's do this. And I just stopped them. I said, hey, can I give you my thoughts on this? And I told them, like, all the expenses that are going to happen with this van. And they said, okay, I guess I didn't really think about that. And they said, we thought you wanted a van. I said, I'll be honest with you. For example, this afternoon, our congregation, we're all going up to CYC. We are going to CYC. When we go up to CYC, a van would be nice, right? It would be nice if all the kids could jump up in a van and go up there. But, we have so many parent volunteers going on that trip that they're all going to be driving their own vehicles up there anyway. Right? I mean, do y'all ever experience that, going on trips like that? You want the parents there. If you've ever done youth ministry, what you want is you want parent involvement, right? And so what you're doing by having this van is we're creating a situation where parents don't have to be involved anymore. And pretty soon it's just youth minister driving around with a bunch of kids in the van, and you've lost all your parents' support and involvement. So I told them, let's just not get a van. Not having a van forces all these people to be involved in this program. Anytime we go somewhere, we've got 7 or 8 different couples who are driving kids around everywhere. It forces them to get to know other people, and it's just a good situation, and it's cheap. It's cheaper on the church. And so they just immediately said, all right, problem solved, no van. Next order of business, mission work. And in that meeting, Now, this is going to sound funny. Like they raised the amount of support that they were giving our work, and I'm not saying I'd shut the van down. So they give us more money. I'm not saying that. It's not going in my pocket, but it is helping some. It's helping somebody else's work overseas, and then they decided that they would support another missionary. They said, okay, well now we've got this extra money. We can help this guy who's going to be making regular trips overseas. Do you see how that worked? And it was so simple. And that's how a small congregation can operate if everybody will just do their part. And let's cut out you must have a professional guy who gets so much money and puts a drain on everything. Or situations like, well, we must have a church van. Why do we have to have a church van? Because everybody has a church van and those kids want to ride in that van. No, we can do things differently. That's just one example. What I'm saying to you is in our works, let's try to do the best job that we can to get the job done, and do it as cheap as we can, so that we're not a drain, so that all of our money's not being funneled back to ourselves, so that we can actually help the work all over this world. You start looking at the first century church and how they did things, and obviously, there's no vans on there, but I'm telling you, it would not have operated that way if they did it today. They weren't talking about paying for buildings and paying for preachers and paying for vans and stuff like that. What was the first century church doing with their money? I mean, what was their number one concern? Their number one concern, every one of these mission points that Paul created, actually, he would plant a church somewhere, then he would plant another church and plant another church, and all their focus was planting another church somewhere else. And so Paul comes through and he's saying, hey, you need to help me out so I can go on to this place and go on to this place. So rather than thinking internally with your congregations, we need to think externally. Does that make sense? That's really all I had planned to say, and I think it's very, very important for us because we're all parts of small congregations. Some of you guys may go to larger congregations, and that's great. That means you have even more opportunity to do more things. But a lot of us, I don't know the size of the congregations where you work in, but it's these small churches I have come to find out that are pushing and spreading the gospel all over the world. And it's because we are forced to think about things differently. We're forced to think about a van situation. With a larger congregation, you can just go buy a van. You can just go buy this, you can just go buy that. And because of that, you start focusing on just what is in front of you, the four walls that you can see. And it's very important for us to get outside of those walls. Thank you very much.